Welcome to Powerboat Talk, the podcast where we talk everything performance boats with your host, Joe Rode.
Hello, welcome to Powerboat Talk. This episode is brought to you by SoCal Jet Boats. You can check out owner Brad Martin on episode 28 of Powerboat Talk to learn more about their company. SoCal Jet Boats is one of the original online forums, and it's still a great resource for all kinds of performance boat info. SoCal Jet Boats has an online store that has a fantastic selection of hot boat apparel and a full line of jet pump parts and accessories. SoCal Jet Boats is also a great supporter of drag boat racing, and you can find them at most ADBA and NJBA races. You can also find them on Instagram and Facebook or online at SoCalJetBoats.com. Welcome to Powerboat Talk. Today I am on with Slug Hefner, who is the owner of Dirty Duck Racing. We all know from Lotto Shootout success, especially this year, had a great year, and Slug was kind enough to come on and talk about the boat and how everything went this year. And so thanks for joining me. I appreciate it, Slug.
Good morning. Glad to be here.
Yeah, so great weekend at Lotto. One of the very, very few boats to ever go over 200, and especially in the 3/4 mile. So why don't you tell us how that all happened?
Well, our goal that we set out was to break 200, and last year we ran 194, and again, that was a twin-engine boat on the 3/4 mile course, and we were the only boat to break 190. So this year we set out to break 200, and we wound up running 202, which just moved us further up the line, so to speak.
Yeah. Now, I think is that the fastest twin engine ever?
Yes, that is what I'm being told. It's the fastest twin engine ever. And I was talking to Carson Brummett, and I told him, I said, Carson, not Carson, I'm sorry, but Don Onklin. And I told him, I said, Don, you got 4 motors. We've got 2. We should get a handicap. They have handicaps in bowling and golf, so I don't know why we wouldn't there. So that old scoundrel told me, he said, well, I'll take 2 motors out if you take 2 motors out.
Yeah, I know, that sounds fair.
Yeah. Oh, but, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
But you know what I mean? I think at the end of the day, everybody knows. I mean, his boat's just, I don't know, it's like an exhibition boat. It's amazing to see. But at the end of the day, right? I mean, it's, what is that? There's another 5,000 plus horsepower he's got for not a lot. I mean, it's a bigger boat, but not,
Right.
Hugely.
Well, no, you got to hand it to them. And of course, they've had 7 or 8 years to engineer that boat. And their crew chief, Earl Mormon, he and I have raced together for over 30 years. So there's a relationship there that we're all friends and we all laugh and joke and what have you. But they are to be commended for what they've accomplished. Something that somebody pointed out to me that I didn't think about it. Our race boat, we drove from Performance Boat Center to the shootout, docked it, drove it home and docked it. Whereas the ethanol boat, they're good for maybe 1, maybe 2 runs. So they've got to be very conservative. Some of the hot rod boats that are showing up are dry blocks, so they're limited to how often they can run or how quick they can turn around. So that'll be interesting to see how that plays out a little bit.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. I did hear that. Amazing the technology that you can do that these days, huh?
Right. Well, Carson Brummett in California did the motor work, and he's renowned for having good power and reliability. And knock on wood, this thing will pop, but it's because I'm bragging on it. But so far, it hadn't given us very many problems.
Yeah. Now let's see. The boat, Myrick Coyle drove the boat. Rusty Williams throttled for you for the runs.
That is correct.
It's a 438 skater, and you're running 557 turbocharged Carson Brummett turbocharged engines, correct?
That is correct.
Now, what did you guys? So you went at 194 last year. So what did you guys do? Are these the same engines? What was the extra? How'd you get the extra mile per hour?
No, it was kind of interesting because the first pass was in I think 187, something like that, and we felt like we had a little bit more oomph to it. And Carson pumped up the boost just a little bit. But what happened in the starting box? We had a 6-second delay before the superchargers kicked in. And So 6 seconds when the whole run lasts 23, 24 seconds is a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So we talked to Carson about it. So Carson came up with the idea of putting some what I call duck juice, which is nitrous oxide. Put some duck juice in there to spool everything up quicker to get rid of that 6 second lag. And the first pass this year, we ran 199. And I said, "You got to be kidding me. We're 1 mile off our goal." And, the god of speed was punishing or flirting with us, whatever. So, but it did get rid of the lag, and that brought the boat on. So the next pass, we ran the 202.
So that was it. Everything else is pretty much the same as last year.
Everything is pretty much the same as last year. That is correct. The drives, the setup, they pretty well had that dialed in, and the boat doesn't do anything stupid, and it's stable. And so we did change pitch of the prop a little bit. We went up, I think, 1.5 times on the pitch, but the rake and everything else in the diameter, I think we kept the same.
Mm-hmm. What a nice luxury to sit there for a year and not have to, tear down motors and work on setups. And
well, the ironic part is that when we did start last year, a couple of weeks after the shootout, we pulled the motors out, shipped them to Carson, and he, of course, he's in California, so he's geographically undesirably located. I tell him that all the time. But we got him out there, then he tweaked them and came up with this system and put them on a dyno, and then he sent them back to us, and then we got them all put in and had to change the plumbing just a little bit here and there, but not much.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're getting ready to start that process again this year.
Mm-hmm. So, but you just use the nitrous just for the turbo lag. So, I mean, pretty.
To me, it was kind of interesting when the throttles get full forward, all the way forward. It kicks the nitrous on, but it only kicks it on until there's 12 pounds of boost, which is about 4 seconds. And then once that happens, the nitrous is shut off. So we use very little nitrous, and it's a very temporary application to get the motor spooled up quicker.
Wow. Oh, that's interesting.
It worked very well. In fact, when Mike got out of the boat and he tested it last year, when he got out of the boat, he said, "This is the hardest accelerating boat that I've ever been in." He said, "It's amazing." And this year he talked a little faster. This is that woke that boat up. This is going somewhere. So I was pretty pleased that he was excited about it. He was.
Yeah. That's something when you get to Myrick to talk even faster than he already does.
Well, there you go. Yeah. And we almost had to make an adjustment. Myrick could barely touch the footrest down in the cockpit of the boat. So I don't know if you saw the movie "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou," where the kid
yes.
in the car and I got the wooden blocks under his feet for him to reach the forward pedals. We got Myrick a set of those blocks and gave it to him. Of course, he's a great sport, and he laughed. Rusty was there, and Rusty was laughing. We were all making jokes. It was pretty funny. But anyway, so but he's all stretched out in that boat. So
that's funny. That's funny.
So he hadn't asked to adjust the seat any, so I think that's going to be good.
Yeah. That's pretty amazing. And the nitrous, and of course, that's all I'm sure electronically controlled. So probably nobody. It just came in and came off when it needed to.
There you go. It's all comes on automatic and shuts off automatic. And there's some procedural things to do on the starting of the motor or and making sure you don't have a charge of nitrous in the motor, because you know what happens then. We hear
right.
Yeah. So, but everything worked the way it was supposed to. Carson did a good job in the design, and Rusty and Mike did a great job in figuring out the procedures. And we had a sheet of paper laminated in the boat where they could kind of remind them what to do and not to do. Yeah. Well, believe it or not, I mean, there's a certain way you've got to do it. And if you accidentally push those throttles all the way forward, and then you don't turn the motors over, if the ignition's on, then you could pop a motor right there on the standing still.
Ooh.
So it's a little bit more involved than I'm making light of, I guess.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And we got our duck hood ornament on this year, whereas last year we didn't have it.
Oh, I
So
thought you had it last year. I thought I put that. I did a story last year after Lotto, a little sidebar about your runs last year. That's why we're talking this year too. But I could have swore I put the duck. I thought you had it last year. No.
Well, I had it. Our support boat's a center console, and there's a duck on the center console, the hood ornament. And we were having trouble. There's a stringer that runs right down the middle of this 438, so that's giving us a little bit of a problem. And Tad over at his marina over there was putting it on, and he was not talking politely. I put it that way. But anyway, we got it on at the midnight hour.
Oh my gosh, that's the one critic. That is a critical piece, right?
Yeah, it's Deer Run Marine or Deer Valley Marine is where he's at. But he did a lot of help and did a good job. You know, that's the thing. That's the thing about it. Everybody that when I started this project, I told myself I want everybody that touches it to be knowledgeable and know what they're doing and what have you, and have a keen communication level with everybody. We were very fortunate. I mean, we got Performance Boat Center that's been super, super, super helpful with Myrick and Rusty, and then, of course, Carson and then Tad. And everybody just pulled together, and we would ask about this or talk about this and figure out our strategy and our logic. And it paid off. It was very thrilling to run that 202 because that was our goal. And we already think we've got more left in the motors. Mm-hmm. So we'll find out about that here. About 11 more months.
Yeah, we're waiting around. Are you gonna run any of the Texas Shootout or any other ones?
I don't know. I have not spoken with Mike or Rusty about that, and we're getting ready to pluck the motors out and send them back to Carson. And he's going to dyno them and what have you. Last year after the event, he did a leak down and it was perfect. And he doesn't expect anything different based on his preliminary research. Mm-hmm. But if we get this thing in to where what happened on this year is that we started losing this on the big end. We were misfiring a little bit. We kind of outran our ignition system. So the thought is to beef up the ignition system some, or maybe put, I don't know. Carson's got a plan.
If he does, he'll figure it out, right?
Yeah, there you go. You'll figure it out. We got a couple options. We can increase the size of this, but win, lose, or draw. I think we're thinking we can get another 6, 7, maybe 8 miles an hour out of it.
Wow.
So that'd put us at somewhere around 209 or 210. And it's still the fastest twin engine. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So we're very, very proud of that. Mm-hmm. The fans seem to like it. And we give away quackers and duck shirts and stuff like that.
You definitely put on the show, and you've got it looking the way it needs to look.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate that. But everybody worked hard. Everybody worked together. To my knowledge, I had no drama whatsoever. So that made everything. It is just enjoyable. And then I believe it's all about fun. You got to have fun. If you're not having fun, then it's not fun.
Right.
Well, yeah. And all those guys, when they come out of the boat, they're pretty excited. And then they talk fast and they're bouncy and bubbly, and so it's fun.
Yeah, and the shootouts the shootouts turned into such a cool event. You kind of run what you brung. The class structures aren't super tight and not a lot of not like spec racing, and it's really a great event.
Oh, I totally agree with that. In my opinion, it's the greatest boating event in this nation, and this was a 36th year. They got a lot of great people that worked their tails plumb off to make this thing happen. Mm-hmm. And I think they're known for their integrity of honest radars and honest starts and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So you can pretty well depend on your numbers being accurate and you're getting a fair shake and what have you. So
yeah, awesome.
That's so good.
Yeah. And, obviously this success it just continues to grow, and the success that they have now, it just didn't happen. It takes years of that consistency to get to where it's at. For a guy a guy like you and a guy like Don, you basically build boats just for the most part for this event,
Mm-hmm. No, that's true. That like last year was the one event, and this year the same thing, one event. We get ready, and I talked to Earl with American Ethanol, and they've already started their rebuilding process and going through and figure out what they got to do or not do.
Yeah,
and so on and so forth. So
yeah,
they're in the same mold as we are, so to speak.
Yeah, just twice as many headaches, right?
Yeah, they got twice as many headaches for their 4 motors,
and the bill's twice as big.
Yeah, but Don is so funny because he's just so low keyed and laid back, and he's got a really great sense of humor, and he oversees stuff, and I think he's somewhat of a perfectionist, and he's just matter of fact and goes about it, and
right.
He'll fence with you and tease with you, so it's always fun. That everybody involved in the shootout that we run across is super good as far as trying to be helpful and looking at this. And I don't know what they'd do if they didn't have all their volunteers. Their volunteers are absolutely wonderful. And again, they work for a long week, long weekend, and probably not as many thank yous as they deserve.
Right. Yeah, never, right?
Right.
So the boat, basically you basically call it your shootout boat, and it's got a pretty cool history. Why don't you talk about how you got your hands on that and how it got to where it is now?
Well, it belonged to the MCON, and they put the 438, and they were going to run Supercat. So they narrowed the tunnel down to I think 66 inches, which was the limit on the Supercat class. And the boat handled everything good, and the top end was good, but they felt like the MCON boys, Tyler and them, felt like it wasn't accelerating as much as they did to be competitive. So that hull with a tilt trailer came up for sale. In the meantime, Vern Gilbert, who's probably the nation's greatest drive guy, and he's funny as all get out too, had a boat called Predator, and not in a 3/4 mile or a mile course either, for that matter, but for a long run top end, I think he had run over 200 miles an hour. And he had the Carson Brummett motors, and he had number 6 drives, and he had tweaked the drives, and he had done this and done that. So I wound up buying that boat from Vern, and he's a pretty good negotiator, and he runs it pretty. But anyway, we got the deal done. So we plucked the drives and all the hardware out of the Predator hull, and I sold the hull and with the interior, but kept just about all the hardware. So then we put those motors and the number 6s all on the 438 skater, and away we went, and everything worked. And Gene Gruber did the rigging the first year, and he did a fantastic job. He made it. It was really, everything was symmetrical. Everything had the right turns in it. It's kind of a showpiece, and that's what I like. I like show starts when you leave the house. I've said that for years. But anyway, we were very proud of the way the boat was rigged, and then of course we were proud the first time out of the box it ran 187. I thought, wow, and we're not knowing about this, not knowing about that. So, but that's how it all came about. We wound up putting the pieces like a set of Tinker Toys, put them all together, and it worked out good.
Yeah, man, nice to find a donor boat like that, huh?
Yeah, it was, and actually a guy I know that actually had working knowledge of that boat and told me about it, so it worked out well.
Yeah, and now I know when you told me this last year about the MCOM guys, kind of giving up on the hull. That's seemed pretty drastic to me. That's a big expense, and rigging and to step away from it. Did you have any reservations about it working for you, or was it just a different environment that they had to be in with the boat?
I thought the 66-inch tunnel would be great for a shootout boat, a high-end shootout boat, or a high-speed shootout boat. I've driven the 388s and different skaters, and with a wider tunnel, they get a little bit they get more of the boat out of the water, so they go faster. I couldn't come up with a reason why the boat would not work, especially with, I was told those motors made about 22 or 2,300 horsepower each, and apparently they did on a honest dyno. So I just thought, like power to weight ratio, this thing has to do good, and it'd give you a little bit more stability than a smaller boat. So that was the supporting thoughts behind the logic, if there is such a thing in boats.
Yeah. So did you have even a little bit of worry once the thing got together, or you're always confident?
I felt pretty confident, but I never really sat back and said, well, what if this thing is a pooch? And I had some guys tell me, the 438, it wasn't good for this, it wasn't good for that, and it did this, and it did that. And I thought, I don't think you've given it a chance. We're going to give it a chance. We're going to breathe some life into it. And so when they put those big motors in there, it woke it up. And I think right now that is the world's fastest skater.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it holds the record for the fastest skater now.
Wow, that's saying something.
Yeah, it's like Liberty Valance coming to town. There's always a new gun coming to town. But it'll be interesting to see. And somebody's got a 388 with some apparently Pro Mod drag car motors in it. And those boys should be running pretty fast too. But I learned a long time ago, you don't worry about your opponent, you worry about your own deal and focus on it, and try to do the best you can do, no matter who you're running against or what the odds are. And it usually works out better for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Opinion. Absolutely. You end up chasing your tail sometimes when you shouldn't.
Yep, that's true. Probably been there, done that. So.
Yeah, learn from experience, right?
Yes, sir.
So what do you know about those guys, that new guy that showed up? Because they're kind of being all secretive.
Well, I can't say his name right, but the guy that put the boat together is in the construction business, I think, in Kansas City, and he's an old drag boat racer. And I'm an old drag boat racer, and I think I knew him from then, and I think he knows me from them. And I think he's got a good reputation about what he puts together, and he knows what he's doing to a lot, and he just put a lot of power in this thing. And and I think they're being very humble, but sooner or later they're going to lay down a big number. 388 and that much power, because I think they're making 3,000 a side.
Yeah, wow.
That's a lot.
Yeah. Wow.
Any way you skin it, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I respect them for their efforts, for their vision. And again, the drag boat experience doesn't hurt anybody, because you go from 0 to 170 or 180 in about 5 seconds. So it doesn't last as long as the offshore counterpart.
Yeah.
But you do kind of learn a lot. So it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah. It's really cool that, again, going back to that kind of run what you brung, there's a guy that's invested that kind of money. And it's not a slouch, it's not a slouch haul. It's all the best of the best. And it's pretty cool that a guy's like, okay, let's see what we can do,
Well, that's right. If we were smart, that guy and I'd get together and start petitioning the sanctioning fathers for a handicap against ethanol. So, of course, I keep throwing that up to Don every chance I get, and he keeps whacking me down every chance he gets.
What you need to do is get somebody like Carson, like a professor, and let him come up with an index or a formula to figure it out. And then you can just post it. Hey, Don, when I factored in the 4 engines, I went 2 miles an hour faster than you.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I'm going to mention that to Carson, see if he'll do it. We'll put it.
Yeah. You can have the duck meter.
Yeah. I just sent Carson and John Kosker a duck.
Did you really?
Yeah. And the duck's, it's almost looks like a hand, but it's got the web feet, it's got the beak and what have you, with the middle finger.
Did you?
So it sit on his desk. We ordered it, hoping it'd get there in time for the shootout, where we just put it on the hull of the boat, the deck of the boat, but it didn't. So anyway, I sent John one, I sent Don one, and they should get them to sometime today.
Oh, that's funny. There you go. Good competitive stuff.
Yeah, and again, if those guys, if we needed help, they'd help us midnight at leap year and vice versa.
Right.
If they needed
Right.
help, we'd do
Right.
anything we could to help them.
Right.
And that's the camaraderie of the sport. And most of the people involved in it that I've met have been wonderful, and they really like and love the boat. So, it just kind of scratching everybody scratches everybody's back and make it be a positive thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at the end of the day, it's a really small fraternity, so it's crazy to not do it any other way, but to help each other and understand you're all in it together.
I appreciate that, and I agree with you. I think you're spot on. So it'll be interesting to see what shows up tomorrow, or not tomorrow. I mean next year, and I'm kind of anxious to see how that 388 runs. I think one of their runs, which they started almost from a dead stop at the end, almost out of the trap, and they ran at 170 something. So it's a given they'd be up around 190. No matter what they do, it's going to be somewhere around 190. Now, getting the setup all done and getting this all done and getting that all done and getting all the engineering done may take a while, because I don't have to tell you, but the place you test is at the track. You don't have much chance to test during the week or somewhere else. So we got a little bit of a head start on them.
Yeah. But yeah, let's hope. We all want the competition, right? So, but kudos for the effort. That's for sure.
Absolutely. And of course, and that's something else too. All those folks over at Performance Boat Center, they just rolled out the red carpet, and anything we needed, they were right there.
Nice.
And anything we can do, we want to see this boat really do good, and had a team spirit and enthusiastic, and that was good. And the same thing with Carson, and the same thing with Deer Valley Marine, and everybody contributed in their own way, and it made things go a lot easier.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, great weekend. So now I think you told me last time, you just mentioned it. I mean, I think you got your start back in drag boat racing, was it?
Actually, it was the old flat bottoms in the circle race.
Oh, circle boats. That's right. Okay, now I remember. Yes,
boats. And that's the first race I ever went to was there, and it was Governor Fall. It was annual fish fry somewhere in Arkansas. Went down there. I mean, this was in the lake in the middle of nowhere. But there were 5 or 6 boats in our class. And anyway, I think I got a second. But I got the bug and I got bit. And then drove a racing craft with some big Chrysler motor in the thing. I don't even remember what it was, but did okay there. And then from there went to this hot rod lake boat, but then started getting drag racing because it was short. And so that's kind of where I really got into it, when I started drag racing.
Yeah. Did you grow up around boating, or?
Yes, my family, my father and the family always had a boat. They weren't always hot rod boats, but we did have some hot rod boats. And back then, the technology was so crude. The bigger motor you put on, the smaller hull, the bigger motor, you went faster.
Yeah.
So
you had to hold on a lot tighter, right?
You had to hold on a lot tighter. Yeah, and it was. And I can remember on that racing craft that I went into a turn, and you had to decelerate before you could straighten the wheel out because the torque, I guess, from the prop was putting so much pressure on it you couldn't turn it, or they just had too small of a helm on it or whatever. And I thought, what in the world is this? And we didn't have a driveline cover. So
geez.
I mean, and I look back, I'm lucky to be here. And again, Earl Mormon that cruised for the ethanol boat, he's been my crew chief for drag boats for 30,
no kidding. Oh, interesting.
Years, and he's the one who kept me safe. He made sure everything was tight and everything worked and what have you. And he would scold me when I did something stupid. So it's been a good experience.
Yeah, that's crazy. You guys you kind of came together all the way through the years and ended up kind of doing the same thing. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, and I think that's part of it, because as you go along, you meet people and what have you. And again, like you said, it's a common goal and the same thoughts. So, yeah, it's good. All good.
Yeah. And then at some point you got into offshore racing. I mean, you had a pretty successful offshore racing career, right?
That is correct. And that all kind of started, and I can blame Randy Sism for that. And Randy with MTI, uh, he had been running boats in Dubai and came over, and I'd started going to Lake the Ozarks. And at the time, I had a 33-foot obsession that I was running at Lake the Ozarks. And he approached me and said, "Hey, I want to build an offshore boat, and I'll build you one, and what have you, and could get you going in this and what have you." Well, I respected his efforts and respected what he'd done and his reputation and his knowledge. So we built the boat, and the boat made the cover of Powerboat magazine. It made the cover of the DuPont Registry, and it was called the Dirty Duck, and is laid out a really exorbitant, fancy paint job. And that was my first offshore boat. Bob Teague tested it, and it ran 132 miles an hour, which was time was a big number for an offshore boat because this thing had a cuddy cabin in it. So I made a mistake of going to an offshore race with Randy, and Randy said, "Well, I can build you one of those." So he built the second duck.
Oh my gosh!
And he built a third duck, and it got better and better and better as we went. So I had a wonderful time in offshore, met a lot of great people, and had a lot of fun with Bob Teague. We had a Super Cat Light, and at the time the record was like 113, 114 top end mile an hour. Well, we round up running 120, and I had a picture of it on a GPS. So I made a Christmas card and sent it to Bob Teague. So the next thing I know, I get a little package back. And there's 2 shotgun shells.
That's a good one.
Duck hunting.
That's a good one.
Yeah. So I still tease Bob about that today, and he's pretty good at teasing back too.
Yeah. Oh, that's very good.
Yeah. Well, that's how the offshore came about.
Gotcha. And at what point did you decide that you were going to let somebody else handle getting in the boat and going fast?
Old age determined that. It probably I had shoulder replacement surgery, and I'm not totally over it yet, and I don't feel as though I've got the agility to get in and out of it pretty quick. If there was an accident, I would be a hindrance. And so I thought, let some of these younger flat belly guys get in there, and their responses are quicker. Plus, I've watched Mike drive boats forever. And he knows what he's doing. He's got a good sense of feel. So does Rusty. So, I wanted them in the boat, and I wanted the support from performance, and that worked out very well. It worked out really well. And again, it made a statement. I think it made a hell of a statement. The fact that we could drive this boat to the course, dock it, and what have you, run around and go to the backwater jacks or someplace else.
Right.
It's almost like a lake boat, except you're running the E95, but the reliability is very good.
Yeah. Do you actually ever do that? Just pleasure wise or no?
No, I've got a boat that I run on the lake, and I use it. Canopy boats are very difficult to see out of when you're looking all around.
Yeah, I gotcha.
When you're going towards a buoy in a straight line, they're a lot more forgiving, I think.
Right. So gotcha. Yeah, that takes a special breed, I think, to strap into that canopy and know if it goes over, you're going out the bottom. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know if I could do that.
Well, once you do it and you get used to it and what have you, like I was always comfortable in the capsules. Of course, the drag boat capsules, there's one guy in there. You've got a ratchet that you ratchet up your seatbelt to get it tight because you can't.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Reach down and pull that up and what have you, and then you close that lid, and then you're floating out there on the water, and then you launch, and then when you launch, all you can see is the horizon, and then the thing flops over and you're gone. So that's pretty thrilling. Whereas the offshore, it takes a while to get on plane, but it can handle 4, 5, 6 foot waves. And you get beat up a little bit, but you're going to be okay. Whereas a drag boat, a 1 foot wave would sink it.
Mm-hmm. Right. Right.
The back. So a lot of similarities, but a lot of differences.
Right. So where did the Dirty Duck moniker come from? How'd that start?
I really need to make up a story that's more exciting because it's a pretty boring story and it takes a little bit. But again, a bunch of our buddies and me were hot rodding at our local lake, Lake Wapapella. And we decided to go to a drag boat race, an organized drag boat race, which we went to Evansville, Illinois. And a lot of people think that's Evansville, Indiana, but it's Evansville, Illinois, which is in the middle of nowhere. It was on a river. So we got over there and got time to register. And so they asked me, said, what's the name of your boat? And I said, well, I don't have a name. They said, we got to have a name. And then said, and also you got to have a number. Well, my birthday was July 11th, so 7-11 was a natural for the number. So I came up with that pretty quick. And I told them, I said, give me a couple of minutes, let me think about a name. And I looked around, and most of the names I saw were very demonic. Widowmaker, the Executioner, I'm going to eat your guts or whatever. So I said, well, I'm just going to call this thing the Duck. Well, we'd run through a rainstorm, and it was muddy and dirty, and somebody said it was pretty dirty. And I said, okay, I'll call it the Dirty Duck. Then from there, we came up with the flashing ducks things and different things, the quackers over the years, and it just grew, and the kids all liked it. So, and it was humorous and it was fun.
Yeah.
When we got the quackers, I'd walk up to somebody having an interview, get behind them and whack, 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 whack.
Oh, I wish I would have thought about that. I could have got one before this, and we could have.
Yeah. Well, it's fun because I've had a lot of parents say, "Don't you give my kids a quacker ever again." Oh, okay, I won't.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but it's just that's how the name came about. And that happened probably 40 years ago, 35, 40 years ago. So we've kept that name around.
I was going to ask, what do you know what number this is? Like what number Dirty Duck this is?
Oh, gosh. I you know what? I don't know. A lot. If you count the drag boats, a lot.
Right.
But I'd have to add it up, and I'd probably need a calculator because my brain doesn't function as good as it used to.
So do you have a background in marketing? Because I mean, you play it really well. I mean, the scheme is, I mean, it's tasteful, it's cool, it's in the quackers and you see the crowds of the dock around your boat. It's very cool. You really know how to do it right.
Well, I'm in the furniture and appliance business, and I grew up and I do the ads or the promotions. So maybe that's part of it. Maybe that's where I learned that. But I was at Havasu, Lake Havasu, for one of the early Super Cat Fests that Alvin Heathman puts on. And this is kind of I think is a pretty funny story. But going through the waterway before we got in the main channel, I had to pee. So I got up on the back of the boat and I was peeing and everything was fine. Nobody said anything. Nobody did this. There wasn't anybody around, and I thought I was pretty safe. Well, the next morning for the driver's meeting, here came the sheriff with 2 deputies. And they looked like the Gestapo. They had long guns, short guns, all that gear on and what have you. And they introduced the sheriff. And he said, well, now let me start with this. There's some things, boys, I'll put up with. And we know you're going to go fast and this and this. He said, but there's some things I won't put up with. He said, is the driver of the Dirty Duck here? And I thought, oh, my God, somebody reported me peeing off the back of this boat. So I humbly raised my hand up and said, yes, sir. And he said, your crew gave my kids those damn quackers, and they kept me up to midnight. Don't ever do that again. I said, yes, sir.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, that is a great
story. Everybody gets into it. And, of course, every time I hand a kid a quacker, I said, now blow it about midnight tonight. Wake everybody up. Okay. Well, they weren't being asleep. And I bet more quackers get lost the first night.
Yeah, that's funny. Now, you have a pretty cool website, too. Can you buy that stuff on your website? Can you buy your T-shirts and your quackers?
Yeah, if you buy a T-shirt, I think you get a free quacker.
Nice.
But I'll be happy to send you a quacker.
Nice. Yeah. I'll let everybody know what it sounds like if I get one.
There you go. Yeah, we'll get one. I think Gwen's probably got and she's in charge of all that. So she's got your address, and
Awesome.
We'll take care of you. If I thought about it, I'd put one on and quacked it for you.
There you go. Yeah. I promise I'll do it the next time if I get one.
All right. Sounds good.
Now, one thing you told me, and I think you kind of talked about it again, is that you really, when you do something, you surround yourself with the best people, right? You got Myrick, Rusty, obviously great driver, great throttleman, skater, Carson, you do the best. You surround yourself with the best guys. Even though you've done that, what's a big mistake you've done? What's something where you really you missed when it was involved with all this stuff you've done?
This particular boat?
With the race, just with the racing in general.
Oh, I think probably the biggest mistake is you add some kind of tension or duress by maybe scheduling too much or maybe trying to have a quicker turnaround and what have you. Oh, guess what I got?
Nice. Let us have it. Oh, that's a fancy. Oh my God.
Can you imagine that going on about midnight when you're sound asleep?
Oh
you
my
got a
gosh.
5-hour drive and everybody's in the back seat blowing them.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That's fantastic.
In fact, there was one instance the guy was leaving and he was in a crew cab dually and we were tearing the race course down. And I was outside working the pits and tearing our pit place down and what have you. And he pulled up beside me, stuck his hand out the window and gave me that one middle finger gesture. And in the back seat, he had 3 kids and they were all whack, 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 whack. He just, boom, away he went.
And you're like, perfect. It's doing its job.
Yeah, it's doing its job. And then they had a lady in the offshore, they called her Blade Babe because she would take care of leasing helicopters for pictures, rescue, what have you. And she scolded me one time for probably 2 or 3 minutes. Those are the most obnoxious things. And you gave my kids, I got 2 kids, and they both had those things. I finally had to take them away and this and that. Don't you know how irritating that? I mean, she just went off on me, and I just grinned at her and said, well, okay. If you ever decide you want another one, holler and I'll give you one.
They're doing exactly what they're supposed to be, right? Everybody knows it's the duck. It's the
That's
dirty
right.
duck's fault.
That's exactly right. That's a good point.
Yeah.
So it's all fun, man.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So other than race fast boat race and build fast boats, what else do you do? Anything else for fun? Any cool hobbies?
Oh, I piddle with a few cars, and then I've always kind of been involved in the business, and we do a lot of things that generate humor. Our ads are kind of quirky and different things. So just whatever life throws at me, I try to hit it with a positive response and go on and say hi to folks and just enjoy other stories and what other people have done.
Mm-hmm.
And like the Ozarks, I've said for years, you'd have to hate life not to like Lake of the Ozarks. I mean, it is, to me, the 8th wonder of the world. You've got all those hot rod boats, all those big pleasure boats, all the cruisers, all the restaurants, all upbeat and positive and run by great people.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all good. All good and better.
Yeah, awesome. Well, hey, man, you do it right. You do it with a smile on your face. It's awesome. And thanks for that. You know, it's a good look for the industry and a good look for the sport. So it's very cool. Appreciate it.
Well, it's fun. And when it stops being fun, that's when you need to reevaluate, look at it and see, well, what do we got to do to make it more fun?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's fun to have successful numbers too. I mean, if the boat performs good, that's obviously more thrilling than if it doesn't.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I'm very respectful of new programs because people don't realize how long it takes to get one of these things going at the utmost speed and efficiency.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, with all that new technology and all the gadgets and the fancy stuff, right? There's more things to go wrong, more things you have to make sure are right.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, because in the drag boats, I would tinker with the motors myself a little bit, but what Carson's doing, I don't have a clue. I mean, I can't play with Tinker Toys, much less tell you about what his magic that he worked. But I'll say this: when he goes back in that engine and he puts that computer on there and he makes this tweak or that tweak, the responses increase, the speed increase. I mean, he knows what he's doing. That's pretty amazing, hey, and then it's pretty relieving too.
Yeah, and his stuff lives too. I mean, that's from a checkbook standpoint, that's nice.
Oh, absolutely. It's not a one trip thing. They do live. So, he and I had that discussion. I told him, I said, I want something to live. I don't want to have a one pass deal like a Top Fuel something, or, so he's done that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And those that live by the speed die by the speeds. So those motors, you run them tighter and tighter and tighter. And again, I don't know how many round trips the ethanol boat could make, but so far they hadn't had to. They've run one pass and whoops up on everybody.
Right. Yeah, crazy. So, well, Slug, I appreciate you getting up early for me today and taking the time. And you were a pleasure talking to you last year, and I really enjoy it, and look forward to talking to you again.
Hey, the pleasure's all mine, and thank you. And we need more folks like you with positive input and what have you. And we're going to send you a quacker, your very own quacker.
Great. My grandson will love it. His mom probably will curse you too.
Yeah. Well, now you know what I go through. I hope she chews you out unmercifully.
Nah. That's what grandparents do.
That's right. Spoil them. Sounds good. Right. Well, I appreciate the opportunity to visit with you, and thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Take care.
Take care.
Thank you for listening to Powerboat Talk. If you like what you've heard, please head over to Apple Podcasts and give us a 5-star review. For more Powerboat Talk, follow us on Facebook or Instagram, or visit our website at powerboattalk.com.